So we're walking into the Valley of Silence. We're at 6,000 metres on Mount Everest. I've got my head down, focusing on one step at a time. I'm so exhausted, I don't feel the earthquake shaking the ground beneath my feet. Hear this crack above my head, ice breaking loose. The mountain comes alive with this primal roar. An avalanche is coming straight towards us. And panic sets in. I've got to move. But trying to walk at altitude is hard enough, never mind trying to run. And it's too late. This suffocating, freezing cloud froze me off my feet. I'd always been lonely, but now I felt like the loneliest person on the planet. I'm 19 years old. I'm thinking, this is it. Game over. The question is, what was I doing here in the first place? You see, it wasn't the first time that life had knocked me down. I've been climbing a very different Everest since I was 9 years old. School was just a different mountain. Suffering with childhood epilepsy, relentless bullying, and a stammer in my speech, which comes and goes when it likes, a bit like a wasp. But had me smashing up phones for the frustration of being unable to say my own name. Anxiety stole every bit of confidence that I had left. I was hopeless at sports. I had no purpose. I was never going to be good enough. Until I found the outdoors, and outdoor challenges became my way to overcome these personal challenges. I went from running out of classes with panic attacks to running races instead, at least until an injury took that freedom away from me and left me with a new challenge of depression and an eating disorder instead. And in that dark time, I needed something to feel good about myself. I needed to achieve something so big that I could finally feel proud of. And I was just a kid, stupid enough to think that he could climb to the top of Mount Everest. But climbing Everest seemed the biggest thing to achieve, the ultimate goal, and a way to climb above my own self-doubts and the bullies that slashed my bike tyres at school. And when we're young, we're all invincible. We think we can take on the world. When society puts all these barriers in front of us, expects us to go off to university, to get a proper job, to buy a house, tie the knots, go on nice holidays, retire, and then what next? There was always more to life for me, at least. And this goal became my life. There was no turning back. And so fast forward 4 years of training, fundraising, sacrificing, failing to make this goal a reality. Until 2014, at 18 years old, I found myself at Everest Base Camp for the first time, looking up the mountain thinking, how on earth am I going to climb that? Thing is, I wasn't. That year ended in the biggest disaster in Everest history at the time. And most importantly, we went home safely. In 2015, we went back. A year later, we're climbing from base camp to Camp 1, moving through the Khumbu icefall. And on that freezing grey morning, it felt like I'd never been on a mountain in my life. But all that exhaustion, that pain, was soon forgotten when the Nepal earthquake hit. Disaster struck twice. Luckily, our team escaped the avalanche unharmed. We were trapped on the mountain for 2 days at Camp 1. Down below, base camp had been destroyed by a much bigger avalanche, triggered by the earthquake. We got down, still in shock, to find our home on the mountain had gone. 20 people had gone with it. And it seems so unfair. Why them? Why not us? Everybody assumes that staying at base camp is the safest place to be. Had we not left base camp that morning, it probably would have killed us. Just like staying in our comfort zones kills our potential. And back home, those mental demons were waiting for me. They'd never really gone away. And I dared to fight them by taking on this massive challenge. And I failed twice. My friend Richard had been in the army. And I remember him saying to me, "This could be the best thing that's ever happened to you." And it got me thinking, had I been in that tent, what would I have left behind? You know, it was stupid to think that climbing Everest was going to be this miracle solution. Because climbing up the mountain, there's only one way back down again. It wasn't going to solve anything. And I was never going to feel good enough for long enough. I was going to have to find something else to fill that gap. Climbing Everest wasn't going to fix my depression. It was just a distraction from the problem. So what if the solution wasn't climbing Everest anymore? What if it was helping other people to climb theirs? To give them some hope, to help them think differently about their challenges in life. And that goal was so vast that I may never truly reach the top. But maybe that way we can only keep getting higher. We make the biggest contribution we can. And so last summer I took on a new challenge called Climb the UK. Climbing to the highest point of all 100 UK counties. Walking, cycling, running over 5,000 miles in 72 days. And this time, people had the chance to take part of it, raising £25,000 for mental health. And I remember one day in Scotland, one of my followers, the supporters, had noticed I was passing, invited me round for coffee. So I called in, and I learnt that she'd lost her brother to mental illness just a few weeks earlier. She had cystic fibrosis herself. Cycling was her solace. And we'd never even met. But there we were, somehow connected by these dark places, sharing some hope, because everybody has something they're dealing with. And I got back on my bike with a hug, loaded with caramel shortbread. And having met this everyday hero, found this sense of hope that although this challenge would come to an end, maybe the journey was just beginning. Maybe this time I'd leave something behind. So I'm not saying don't go after your goals. I'm saying they might not bring you what you wanted. They might bring you something even better. Now, lastly, you're probably thinking, well, would I go back to Everest? If I do, it won't be for approval, because we have to find that for ourselves. It won't be to fix my depression, because it's not about our strength. And it won't be to prove anybody wrong, because there's nothing left to prove. Whether we're the young, the wise, or those that haven't yet tried, we're never too late to change our goals. Whichever goal you choose is not about choosing the biggest, but leaving something bigger behind. Thank you.